The signal the night shift was always quiet on Valora 7 station. Lyra liked it that way. She sat alone in the radar room, watching the screens glow soft blue in the darkness. Outside the thick windows, the massive gas giant filled half the sky, its orange and red clouds swirling slowly like paint in water. Lyra was young for a radar technician, only 23 cycles old. Her blue skin was pale from too many hours indoors, and her large silver eyes often looked tired. But she was good at her job. She noticed things others missed. That was why Commander Taval kept her on the important shifts. Tonight was supposed to be boring. A cargo ship had passed through 6 hours ago. A mining vessel had sent a routine check-in. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. Then her console made a sound she had never heard before. It was not the normal beep of a friendly ship. It was not the sharp alarm of an enemy vessel. It was something older, deeper, like the machine itself was confused. Lyra leaned forward and looked at the screen. A ship had appeared at the edge of their sensor range. It was not large, maybe a medium transport class. The shape was strange, all hard angles and flat surfaces, nothing like the smooth curves that most species preferred. She typed quickly, asking the computer to identify the vessel. The system searched through thousands of ship designs from hundreds of species. Vellani ships, Krath raiders, Torvian merchants. Nothing matched. Then the computer found something in its oldest files, buried deep in records that were centuries old. The word appeared on her screen in bright red letters. Human. Lyra stopped breathing. She had heard stories about humans, of course. Every child in the Galactic Coalition had heard stories about humans. They were like ghost tales, frightening stories told to make children behave. Be good, or the humans will come. Don't wander off, or you'll end up on a death world like Earth. The story said humans came from a planet so dangerous that everything tried to kill them. The air was full of invisible poisons. The water was filled with monsters. The land shook and broke apart. Fire fell from the sky. And somehow, impossibly, humans had survived it all. They had not just survived. They had conquered their death world. They had spread across their star system. Then they had disappeared. No one had seen a human ship in over 200 years. Most people believed they had destroyed themselves, the way violent species often did. Others thought they had simply gone away, traveled to some distant part of the galaxy where no one could follow. Some people did not believe humans had ever existed at all. But here was a human ship on Lyra's screen. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the communication button. She pressed it and spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Commander Taval, please come to radar control. Immediately. She did not explain why. She could not find the words. Taval arrived within minutes. He was old for a Vellani, his blue skin wrinkled and his silver eyes clouded with age. But he moved quickly when he saw the look on Lyra's face. What is it? He asked. Another Krath scout. Lyra simply pointed at the screen. Taval looked. He read the word. Then he read it again. His face went pale, a lighter shade of blue that Lyra had never seen on him before. This is not possible, he said quietly. The computer is certain, Lyra replied. The ship design matches old records. Very old records. Taval stood very still for a long moment. Lyra could see his mind working, trying to decide what to do. He was a careful commander, always thinking 3 steps ahead. But this situation had no procedure. No one had written rules for what to do when a legend appeared on your radar. Hail them, he finally said. Open a channel. Standard greeting. Lyra's fingers trembled as she worked the controls. The communication system hummed to life. She cleared her throat and spoke in Galactic Common, the shared language of the Coalition. Unknown vessel, this is Valora 7 station. Please identify yourself and state your purpose. Static filled the speakers. Lyra held her breath. Maybe the stories were true. Maybe humans could not be reasoned with. Maybe they would attack without warning, the way the old tailies said they did. Then a voice came through. It was warm and calm, speaking Galactic Common with a strange accent that Lyra had never heard before. The Lara 7 Station. This is the exploration vessel Sunrise. Captain Park Dahyun speaking. We come in peace. We have been traveling for a long time, and our ship needs some small repairs. We also need rest. We are requesting permission to dock at your station. Lyra looked at Commander Toval. His mouth was hanging open. They speak our language, he said, amazed. They said they come in peace, Lyra added. Toval was quiet for another moment. Then he took a deep breath and leaned toward the microphone. Sunrise, this is Commander Toval. We've not had contact with your species in a very long time. You understand this is unexpected. The human's voice came back, and Lyra thought she could hear a smile in it. We understand completely, Commander. We know we have been away for a while, but we are not here to cause trouble. We are explorers. We just want to fix our ship, rest, and maybe make some friends. We have trade goods if you need them. Medicine, technology, food. Whatever helps. Toval looked at Lyra. She looked back at him. Neither of them knew what to say. The stories described humans as monsters. Savage creatures who killed without thought, who destroyed everything they touched. But this voice on the radio sounded kind. Patient, almost gentle. This could be a trick, Toval whispered to Lyra. It could be, she agreed. But if we refuse them and they are peaceful, we lose a chance at first contact. If we refuse them and they are dangerous, they might attack anyway. At least if we let them dock, we can watch them closely. Toval considered this. Then he nodded slowly. Sunrise, you have permission to dock at Bay 4. Please follow standard approach procedures. We will have a team waiting to meet you. Thank you, Commander. We will see you soon. Sunrise out. The communication ended. The radar room fell silent. Lyra stared at the small dot on her screen, growing closer with each passing second. Somewhere in that ship were real humans. Living, breathing humans. Creatures from the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. She was going to meet them. She was terrified. But somewhere deep inside, under all the fear, she felt something else. Something that surprised her. She felt curious. The humans were coming. And Lyra wanted to know if the stories were true. First contact, Lyra stood in docking bay 4 with her hands clasped behind her back, trying to stop them from shaking. She was not alone. Commander Toval stood beside her, along with 6 security officers armed with pulse rifles. The weapons were set to stun, but Lyra wondered if stun settings would even work on humans. The story said they could survive injuries that would kill any other species. The Sunrise had landed smoothly, its strange angular shape now visible through the bay windows. Up close, the ship looked old and worn. The metal was scratched and dented in places. Burn marks covered one side, evidence of some battle or accident long ago. But the engines glowed steady and strong. This ship had traveled far, and it had survived. A hissing sound filled the bay as the airlock began to open. Lyra felt her heart beating fast in her chest. She tried to remember everything she knew about humans from the old records. They were bipedal, like Villani. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Their skin came in many colors, from pale pink to dark brown. They had hair on their heads, sometimes on their faces. Their eyes were small and came in different colors too. They were also supposed to be tall. The records described them as giants, towering over other species, with muscles built for violence and speed. The airlock door opened completely. 3 figures stepped out. Lyra blinked in confusion. The humans were not giants. They were actually shorter than most Villani, including Lyra herself. The tallest one, a man with gray hair at his temples and deep lines around his eyes, barely reached Lyra's shoulder. He wore a simple gray jumpsuit with a patch on the chest that showed a rising sun. He smiled at them. It was not the smile of a predator. It was warm, gentle, almost shy. "Hello," he said in Galactic Common. "I am Captain Park Do-hyun. Thank you for allowing us to dock. We are very grateful." Then he did something strange. He bent forward at the waist, lowering his head briefly before straightening up again. Lyra did not know what this gesture meant, but somehow it felt respectful. The second human stepped forward. She was a woman with long black hair tied back from her face. Her eyes were dark and bright, and she carried a small bag over her shoulder. She looked around the docking bay with obvious curiosity, taking in every detail. "I am Lieutenant Kim Yuna," she said, "ship's doctor. If anyone on your station needs medical help, I would be happy to assist. Consider it a gift for your hospitality." The third human was younger than the others, a man with messy dark hair and an eager expression. He was already looking past the security officers, staring at the walls and ceiling with wonder. "Navigator Choi Min-ho," he said quickly. "Wow, this station is beautiful. Is that natural crystal in the walls?" "It is, isn't it? I read that Villani architecture uses crystal formations. I never thought I would see it in person." Commander Toval seemed as confused as Lyra felt. He had prepared himself for monsters. He had prepared for threats and demands. He had not prepared for politeness. "Welcome to Valora 7 Station," he said carefully. "I am Commander Toval. This is Lyra, one of our technicians. She will serve as your guide during your stay." Lyra's eyes went wide. No one had told her she would be the guide. But before she could protest, Captain Do-hyun was already approaching her. "Lyra," he said, and his accent made her name sound musical. "Thank you for having us. I know our arrival must be surprising." "Surprising is one word for it," Lyra replied, finding her voice at last. "We thought your species was extinct." She immediately regretted the words. That was rude. But Do-hyun just laughed, a warm sound that filled the docking bay. "Not extinct. Just traveling. We went far away for a while, exploring the outer edges of the galaxy. Now we are finding our way back." "Why?" Lyra asked. "Why come back now?" Do-hyun's expression became thoughtful. "Because we missed having neighbors. Space is big and empty. It is nice to talk to someone who is not from your own crew." Yuna had moved closer to the security officers and was studying them with professional interest. "Your species is fascinating," she said to one of them. "The silver eyes, they must be adapted for low light conditions, yes? And your bone structure is so elegant. Much more efficient than human bones." The security officer looked uncomfortable, but also slightly pleased. Min-ho had wandered toward the windows and was pressing his face against the glass like a child. "The gas giant is amazing. Look at those storm patterns. Captain, can we stay an extra day? I want to take readings." "Min-ho," Do-hyun said patiently, "we just arrived. Please try to make a good impression." "I am making a great impression. I am showing them that humans appreciate beauty." Lyra watched these interactions with growing confusion. These humans acted nothing like the creatures from the stories. They were not cold or cruel. They did not make demands or threats. They seemed genuinely happy to be here, genuinely interested in learning about the station and its people. Commander Toval pulled Lyra aside while the humans were distracted. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. "I think they are not what we expected," Lyra replied. "That could make them more dangerous, not less. Or it could mean the old stories were wrong." Toval frowned. "Stories come from somewhere. There must be truth in them. Maybe. But right now, all I see are 3 tired travelers who want to fix their ship and rest. They offered us medicine, Commander. Free medicine. What kind of dangerous species does that?" Toval had no answer. Captain Do-hyun approached them again, his expression apologetic. I'm sorry, but may I ask about food? We have been eating ship rations for months. If there is anything fresh, we would be very grateful. We can pay, of course. We have a mess hall, Lyra heard herself say. I can take you there. Do-hyun's face lit up with genuine happiness. Thank you. Thank you so much. As Lyra led the three humans out of the docking bay, she found herself walking beside Yuna. The human woman moved with quiet grace, her eyes still taking in everything around her. You seem nervous, Yuna said softly. I have never met a human before, Lyra admitted. Yuna smiled. That is fair. We have never met a Vellani before either. This is new for all of us. She paused. You can ask us questions if you want. We do not mind. We know there are probably many stories about humans, and not all of them are nice. Ask us anything. We will tell you the truth. Lyra considered this. There were so many questions in her mind, so many things she wanted to know. But she was not ready yet. She needed more time to observe, to watch, to decide for herself what kind of creatures these humans really were. Later, she said. I will ask later. Yuna nodded. Whenever you are ready. We are not going anywhere for a few days. Behind them, Minho was asking Do-hyun if he could buy some of the crystal from the walls to take home as a souvenir. Do-hyun was explaining, with great patience, that you could not just buy pieces of someone else's station. Lyra felt something strange happening inside her chest. She thought it might be the beginning of trust. But trust, she reminded herself, could be dangerous. She would keep watching. She would keep waiting. And she would find the truth about these mysterious humans, one way or another. The stories don't match. 2 days passed on Velora 7 station, and Lyra spent most of that time following the humans. She told herself it was her duty as their guide. But truthfully, she could not stop watching them. Everything they did confused her more. On the first morning, she found Captain Do-hyun in the repair bay, working on his ship alongside the station's mechanics. He had taken off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves, and Lyra could see the scars on his hands and arms. Old burns, old cuts, marks of a hard life. But he worked carefully and patiently, explaining human technology to the curious Vellani engineers. This part controls the fuel mixture, he said, holding up a small metal device. It is old technology, but it works well. Simple is better, I think. Less to break. The mechanics nodded eagerly. They had expected the humans to guard their technology secrets, but Do-hyun shared everything openly. In the medical center, Lieutenant Yuna was causing a small revolution. She had brought cases of medicine from the sunrise, treatments for diseases that Vellani doctors had struggled with for years. She gave them all away for free. Knowledge should not be locked away, she told the head doctor. If we can help, we should help. That is what medicine is for. She spent hours teaching the Vellani doctors about human medical techniques. She examined patients who volunteered, comparing Vellani biology to human biology, making careful notes. She never seemed tired. She never seemed bored. She genuinely wanted to learn and to share. Navigator Minho was everywhere at once. He appeared in the station's library, reading everything he could find about Vellani history. He visited the observation deck and spent hours watching the gas giant below. He talked to everyone he met, asking questions about their jobs, their families, their lives. Your language is beautiful, he told one confused maintenance worker. The way you use tones to show emotion. Humans have something similar, but not as elegant. Can you teach me some phrases? The worker, who had never thought of his language as beautiful before, found himself smiling and agreeing. Lyra watched all of this with growing frustration. Where were the monsters from the stories? Where were the violent killers, the savage warriors, the death world demons. On the evening of the second day, she found Minho alone on the observation deck. He was sitting on the floor with his back against the window, eating something from a small container. The smell was strange but not unpleasant. "What is that?" Lyra asked, sitting down nearby. "Ramen," Minho said. "Noodles from Earth. My mother used to make it for me when I was a child. This is the packaged kind, not as good, but it reminds me of home. You miss Earth?" "Sometimes. I have been in space for 5 years now. I left when I was 22. I wanted to see the galaxy." He laughed softly. "I thought it would be more exciting. Mostly it is just empty space and waiting. And now you are here. And now I am here, talking to an alien. My younger self would be very jealous." Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she asked a question that had been burning inside her. "The records say your kind are warriors. They say you conquered your death world through violence. That you are relentless, aggressive, dangerous. That you killed millions of your own people in wars." Minho stopped eating. His smile faded, and for the first time, Lyra saw something serious in his eyes. "The records are not wrong," he said quietly. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. "Then why do you act like this? Kind and friendly and harmless?" "Because we are not always at war." Minho set down his food and turned to face her. "Yes, humans have done terrible things. We have killed each other over land, over resources, over ideas. We have destroyed and conquered and caused more pain than I can describe." He paused. "But we have also created beautiful things, music, art, stories. We have loved deeply and sacrificed ourselves for strangers. We have built hospitals and schools and gardens. The same hands that fight can also heal. The same hearts that hate can also love." "I do not understand," Lyra said. "How can you be both things?" Minho smiled sadly. "That is the human condition. We are not one thing or another. We are everything, all at once. Good and bad, kind and cruel, gentle and fierce. Every human contains all these possibilities." "That sounds exhausting." "It is." Minho picked up his noodles again. "But it also means we can choose. Every day, every moment, we decide who we want to be. Right now, I choose to be friendly. I choose to be curious. I choose to enjoy these noodles and this view and this conversation with you. And if someone threatened you?" Minho's eyes met hers, and for just a second, Lyra saw something else there. Something cold and ancient and dangerous. It was gone so fast she almost thought she imagined it. "Then I would choose differently," he said simply. Lyra shivered. "The stories about humans," she said slowly. "They are true?" "Some of them. The ones about us being survivors, yes. The ones about us being stubborn, definitely. The ones about us protecting the people we care about." He nodded. "Those are very true. What about the ones that say humans are dangerous?" Minho thought about this for a long moment. "Let me tell you something about Earth," he said. "On our planet, we have animals called dogs. Thousands of years ago, they were wolves, predators, killers. But humans took them in, cared for them, loved them. And the wolves became dogs. Loyal, gentle, protective. They would die for their human families. But they were still wolves inside? Yes, if you threatened their family, they would become wolves again in an instant." Minho smiled. "Humans are like that with people we care about. Most of the time, we are dogs. Friendly, playful, wanting to be loved. But threaten someone we have decided to protect." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Lyra understood now. The humans on this station were not pretending to be harmless. They were genuinely kind, genuinely curious, genuinely friendly. But that kindness was a choice. And if they ever stop choosing kindness... You are terrifying, Lyra said quietly. Minho laughed. Only if you make us your enemy. And you have not. You have been welcoming and patient and helpful. That makes you a friend. His smile warmed. And humans are very loyal to friends. Lyra sat with him in silence for a while, watching the gas giants swirl below them. She thought about everything she had seen in the past 2 days. The kindness, the generosity, the genuine interest in her people and her culture. She thought about the scars on Captain Doyun's hands. She thought about the cold flash in Minho's eyes. She thought about the stories, and how they were both true and false at the same time. I think, she said finally, that humans are the most confusing species I have ever met. Minho grinned. Thank you. We try. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm began to sound. Minho was on his feet instantly, his body tense, his eyes sharp. The friendly young man was gone. In his place stood something else entirely. That is not a drill, he said. Something is wrong. Lyra's communicator buzzed with an emergency message from Commander Toval. She read it and felt her blood go cold. Craft raiders. 6 ships. Coming fast. The peaceful days were over, and Lyra was about to see what happened when humans stopped choosing to be kind. The raid, the alarms screamed through every corridor of Valora 7 station. Red lights flashed on the walls. Voices shouted over the communication system, giving orders that nobody seemed to follow. Chaos had taken hold. Lyra ran toward the command center with Minho right behind her. The young human had changed completely. Gone was the smiling, curious explorer. In his place was someone focused, alert, moving with a purpose that Lyra had never seen before. They found Commander Toval staring at the main display screen. 6 ships were approaching the station, moving fast. Their hulls were painted with the red and black symbols of the Krath, pirates, slavers, the most violent species in this sector of space. How long until they reach us? Lyra asked. 20 minutes, Toval replied. His voice was shaking. The nearest coalition patrol is 4 hours away. We have already sent a distress signal, but he did not need to finish. Everyone knew what the Krath did to stations they captured. They took everything valuable. They took everyone they could sell as slaves. They killed everyone else. Captain Do-hyun burst through the door, followed by Lieutenant Yuna. Both of them looked at the screen, taking in the situation in seconds. How many people on this station? Do-hyun asked. 237, Toval answered. How many can fight? Toval looked at him with confusion. Fight? We are scientists, technicians. We have security officers, but only 12. And they are trained for station problems, not military combat. Weapons? Pulse rifles. Stun grenades. Nothing that would stop a Krath raiding party. Do-hyun and Yuna exchanged a look. Something passed between them, some silent communication that Lyra did not understand. Then Do-hyun turned to his crew. Yuna, get to the medical center. Clear it out. Prepare for casualties. Lots of them. Yuna nodded and was gone without a word. Minho, with me. Always, Minho replied. Do-hyun looked at Commander Toval. How will they come? They usually breach through the lower cargo bays. The walls are thinner there. Show me. Toval hesitated. Captain, I appreciate the offer, but this is not your fight. Your ship is undamaged. You could leave. Escape before they arrive. We would not blame you. Do-hyun's expression did not change. You gave us shelter. You shared your food with us. You treated us with kindness when you had every reason to fear us. He shook his head slowly. We do not abandon friends, but you are only 3 people. Something dangerous flickered in Do-hyun's eyes. Something that made Lyra step back without meaning to. We are 3 humans, he said quietly. That will be enough. The cargo bay was cold and dark. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the metal walls. Lyra had followed against Commander Toval's orders, hiding behind a stack of containers near the entrance. She needed to see. She needed to understand. Do-hyun and Minho stood in the center of the bay, waiting. They had taken off their gray jumpsuits and wore only simple black clothing underneath. No armor, no visible weapons. Just two men standing calmly in an empty room. Are they insane? Lyra whispered to herself. The wall exploded inward. Krath soldiers poured through the breach. They were tall, reptilian, covered in thick scales that could stop most weapons. Their eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. Their claws were long and sharp, designed for tearing flesh. There were at least 30 of them. They saw the two humans and stopped, confused. Where were the defenders? Where were the weapons? Why were these two small creatures just standing there? The lead Krath laughed, a harsh hissing sound. Two little mammals, he said in broken galactic common. You think you can stop us? Step aside, and we might keep you as pets. Do-hyun did not step aside. Leave now, he said calmly. This is your only warning. The Krath laughed again and raised his weapon. He never fired. Do-hyun moved. Lyra had never seen anything move that fast. One moment he was standing still. The next moment he was in front of the Krath leader, his hand around the creature's throat. Then everything became chaos. Lyra had heard stories about human combat. She had read reports from ancient battles, descriptions written by terrified survivors. She had thought they were exaggerations, legends made bigger over time. They were not exaggerations. Do-hyun and Minho fought like nothing she had ever seen. They did not fight like soldiers following orders. They fought like wild animals, like forces of nature, like death itself given human form. Do-hyun took a blade across his arm. Blood sprayed across the floor. He did not slow down. He did not even seem to notice. He grabbed the Krath who had cut him and threw the creature into two others, sending all three crashing to the ground. Minho was screaming. Not words, just a raw sound of pure fury. He tackled the Krath, twice his size, and they rolled across the floor together. When they stopped, only Minho got up. The Krath were trained warriors. They had raided 100 stations. They had killed thousands of people. But they were not prepared for this. They were not prepared for creatures who did not stop when wounded, who did not retreat when outnumbered, who seemed to grow more dangerous with every passing second. A Krath soldier shot Do-hyun in the leg. He stumbled, caught himself, and kept fighting. Blood was pouring from his arm, his leg, a cut above his eye. He should have been dead. He should have been unconscious. Instead, he was still moving, still fighting, still destroying everything in his path. What are they? One of the Krath screamed. What are these things? Lyra watched from her hiding spot, unable to look away. She finally understood the stories. She finally understood why humans were feared across the galaxy. It was not their technology. It was not their numbers. It was this impossible, terrifying refusal to stop. Minho grabbed a Krath by the head and slammed it into the wall. Once, twice, 3 times. The Krath stopped moving. Leave! Minho roared, his voice echoing through the bay. Leave now or die here. The remaining Krath looked at each other. They looked at the bodies on the floor, at least 15 of their soldiers, dead or unconscious. They looked at the 2 humans covered in blood, still standing, still ready to fight. They ran. They actually ran. The Krath, the most feared raiders in the sector, turned and fled back through the breach they had made. Within minutes, their ships were retreating, fleeing toward the edge of the system. Silence fell over the cargo bay. Do-hyun collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Blood pooled around him on the metal floor. Minho rushed to his side. checking his wounds. "The leg is bad," Minho said. "We need to get you to Yuna." "The station?" Do-Hyun asked. "The people?" "Safe. They are safe." Do-Hyun closed his eyes and smiled. It was a tired smile, full of pain, but also full of relief. "Good," he said. "That is good." Lyra stepped out from her hiding place. Her legs were shaking so badly she could barely walk. Both humans looked up at her. "Are you hurt?" Minho asked immediately. "Did any of them get past us?" "No," Lyra whispered. "No, I am fine. I am—" She could not find words. "You stopped them. You two stopped them. That is what friends do," Do-Hyun said simply. Then he passed out from blood loss. Lyra rushed forward to help Minho carry him. As they moved through the corridors toward the medical center, she kept looking at Do-Hyun's face. Peaceful now. Kind, even in unconsciousness. This was the same man who had just fought like a demon. The same man who had taken wounds that would have killed a Vellani and kept fighting anyway. The stories were true. All of them. Humans were monsters, but they were monsters who chose their enemies carefully. And Lyra was very, very glad that she was not one of them. Genuine, the medical center was crowded. Injured station workers lay on beds, their wounds being treated by a mix of Vellani doctors and one very busy human. Lieutenant Yuna moved between patients with calm efficiency, giving orders, checking wounds, and somehow managing to smile at everyone despite the chaos. Lyra stood in the doorway, watching. The attack had ended 6 hours ago. The craft had fled and had not returned. The Coalition patrol had finally arrived, too late to help, but soon enough to secure the area. Valor 7 station was safe. 12 people had been injured during the raid. None had died. The station's leaders called it a miracle. Lyra called it something else. She found Captain Do-Hyun in a bed near the window. Yuna had stitched his arm and treated his leg, and now he lay propped up on pillows, looking tired but alive. Minho sat beside him, a black bruise covering half his face. Neither of them complained about their injuries. "You should be resting," Lyra said to Minho. He grinned, and even with the bruise, it was still the same friendly smile she remembered from before. "I tried. I got bored. There are so many interesting people here to talk to." Lyra shook her head and moved closer to Do-Hyun's bed. The captain opened his eyes when he heard her approach. "Lyra," he said, his voice rough but warm. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for saving us," she replied. He shook his head slightly. "We did not do it for thanks." "I know." Lyra pulled up a chair and sat down. For a moment she just looked at him, this strange creature from a death world, this monster who had shown her nothing but kindness. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "You could have left. When the craft came, your ship was ready. You could have escaped before the attack. You owed us nothing. We were strangers who had only known you for 2 days." She paused. "Why did you stay?" Do-Hyun was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he turned his head to look out the window at the vast orange glow of the gas giant beyond. "When I was young," he said, "my grandmother told me a story. She said that the measure of a person is not what they do when they are being watched. It is what they do when no one is watching. When there is no reward for being good and no punishment for being bad. That is when you see who someone truly is." He looked back at Lyra. "You gave us shelter. You shared your food. You asked us questions and listened to our answers. You treated us like people, not like legends or monsters." His eyes were soft but serious. "That makes you family. And humans do not abandon family. Not for any reason, but we are not human. Family is not about blood. Family is about choice." He smiled. "We chose you. The moment you opened that docking bay door, we chose you." Lyra felt something tight in her chest. It was hard to breathe, but not in a bad way. More like her heart was too full of emotion to fit inside her body. Yuna appeared beside them, wiping her hands on a cloth. The arm will heal in a few weeks. The leg will take longer, but he will walk again without problems. He is lucky the blade missed the main artery. Lucky, Minho laughed. He moved at the last second. That was not luck. That was skill. It was stupid, Yuna said firmly. Next time, let Minho take the knife. He has nothing important in his legs. Hey! Lyra watched their friendly argument with wonder. These three humans had just fought a battle that should have killed them. They were covered in bandages and bruises. And yet here they were, joking with each other like nothing had happened. The stories about humans, Lyra said quietly, interrupting their bickering. They called you monsters. All three humans looked at her. The joking stopped. Some humans are, Yuna said, her voice gentle. I am not going to lie to you. Our history is full of terrible people who did terrible things. We have started wars over pieces of land. We have killed each other over ideas. We have caused more pain and suffering than most species can imagine. Then how can you be so kind? Minho leaned forward, his expression serious for once. Because kindness is a choice. Every single day, every single moment, we decide what kind of person we want to be. The people who do terrible things, they made a choice. And we can make a different choice. That is what makes humans special, Doyun added. Not our strength. Not our ability to survive. It is the fact that we know we can be cruel, and we choose to be kind anyway. The kindness means more because it is not easy. It is not automatic. It is a decision we make over and over again. Lyra thought about this for a long time. She thought about the friendly explorer who had asked about the crystals in the walls. She thought about the doctor who had given away medicine for free. She thought about the captain who had worked alongside common mechanics without any pride. She thought about the monsters who had fought the Krath without fear or hesitation. They were the same people. I understand now, she said slowly. The stories were not wrong. They were just incomplete. They only showed one side of you. Most stories are like that, Doyun agreed. They show what people want to see, not the whole truth. And the whole truth is complicated. Always. That is what makes it worth knowing. The medical center doors opened and Commander Toval entered. He looked older than he had 2 days ago, more tired, but also relieved. He stopped beside Doyun's bed and stood there awkwardly for a moment. I came to say thank you, he said finally. What you did? I cannot find words. You saved us all. You would have done the same, Doyun replied. Toval shook his head. I would like to believe that, but I do not know if it is true. You barely knew us, and you risked your lives for us anyway. He paused. The stories about humans, I thought I understood them. I do not think I understood anything. Maybe that is the first step to real understanding, Yuna said gently. Admitting that you do not know. Toval nodded slowly. Then he turned to Lyra. The Coalition wants a full report on the human visitors. A recommendation for future contact. He looked back at Doyun. I would like to recommend that we open formal relations. That we invite more humans to visit. But I want to know what you think first, Lyra. You spent the most time with them. Lyra looked at the three humans. The kind doctor. The eager explorer. The protective captain. Monsters and friends, warriors and healers, all contained in the same fragile bodies. I think, she said carefully, that humans are the most genuine species I have ever met. Not because they are always good, not because they cannot be dangerous, but because they choose their actions every single moment. Their kindness is real because they could choose cruelty. Their friendship is real because they could choose to walk away. She smiled at Doyun. I think we should welcome them. I think we meet them. And I think—" She paused. "I think I would like to see Earth someday." Dohin's tired face lit up with a smile. "That can be arranged." 3 months later, a young Vellani technician named Lyra stood at the viewport of a human vessel called the Sunrise. Behind her, Captain Dohin was arguing with Minho about the best route to Earth. Yuna was teaching a new Vellani crew member about human first aid. The ship hummed with life and energy and laughter. Ahead, through the vast darkness of space, a small blue planet grew larger with each passing hour. Lyra watched it approach. This legendary death world, this home of monsters and friends. She was not afraid anymore. She was excited. She was ready to see the truth for herself. The stories have been just the beginning. The real adventure was finally starting. And somewhere in the universe, other species were receiving reports about the humans' return, about their kindness and their fury, about how they had saved a station full of strangers and asked for nothing in return. New stories were being told now. Better stories, true stories, and the humans were just getting started.